It seems like it's happening every day. George Floyd, Ma'Khia Bryant, Dante Wright, Rayshard Brooks, Breonna Taylor. These are the names of 5 people who have been killed by a law enforcement officer in this country. And there are many, many more. In fact, experts estimate more than 1,000 people are shot and killed by police in this country each and every year. Every day, there are encounters between police and civilians that don't end in death, but they can still be traumatic for the person involved, and they can be costly for the agency involved. Our Solutionaries First Look focuses on a young man born and raised in Florida, a musician who has now filed a lawsuit against the Daytona Beach Police Department. The lawsuit alleges he was wrongfully arrested and that officers used excessive force. Take a look. These are Daytona Beach police officers wrestling 24-year-old Joemardrick Wilcox to the floor inside a Daytona Beach pizza shop. One officer sits on his back and handcuffs him, while another places a taser to the back of his head. You can hear Wilcox yelling.
You can't arrest me! I thought it was a pistol, and all I knew was there was a weapon to my head, and at any moment, if he felt like it, there goes my life.
It was a crowded Saturday night on Daytona Beach in June of 2019. As the bars closed, police started trying to get the crowd to disperse. Wilcox and his friends were among many waiting to get into a pizza shop when Wilcox says Officer Jerome Hassel asked them to leave.
So I told the officer, but we're paying customers. You know, it's not like we're just loitering around here.
According to the arrest report, Hassel checked with the manager, and the manager stated that yes, Wilcox and his friends could stay. As Hassel was about to leave, Wilcox began to use profanity, according to the report. The video starts when Officer Hassel approaches Wilcox again, asking what he said.
For that? Yes, what'd you say? Out of here! You can't arrest me! You can't arrest me!
Wilcox was arrested that night for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. But months later, a judge dismissed both charges, writing, "The defendant's words were rude and offensive, but are constitutionally protected free speech."
The arrestee had the total power to prevent what occurred.
Mike Scudero is the executive director of the Coastal Florida Police Benevolent Association and represented the officers involved in the case. He says the officer arrested Wilcox not because Wilcox cursed at the officer, but because the officer believed Wilcox's language could have incited a riot. He also points out that Daytona Beach PD exonerated the officers.
Based on the outcome of the internal investigation, he was found to have acted within policy on that.
Do you not believe that that is at all excessive?
No, I don't think it's excessive at all. Had he just cooperated when he was told to put his hands behind his back, they don't go to the ground.
Wilcox says the lawsuit is about justice.
I'm ready to see true justice. You know, I'm ready to see the justice system not fail.
An encounter like the one Wilcox experienced can forever change a person's perception of law enforcement. We originally interviewed him in January of 2021. We checked back in with him a couple of weeks ago and asked how he feels about police after that encounter. We also asked what goes through his mind anytime a person of color is killed by an officer.
Anger, pain, sadness. Like, it could be me. I've always felt like it could be me. You know what I mean? Even when I was a child, I felt like it could be me. But it does feel like with the police, we haven't gotten anywhere. We're still where we had years ago. We're still getting murdered on the street.
Is it possible that some of these interactions, they're not about race, but they're about power?
Yes, I don't think a uniform just changes you. I think that whoever you were, you're just that kind of person. That uniform is just extra perks. So when you put that uniform on, you now have like a license to kill. You know what I'm saying? You now have all this kind of stuff that, you know, you probably already thought about doing because it's somewhere in there. That anger, that whole I'm better, it's in there. It's in there. It was in there for a long time. But just having that kind of power just really just opens it up. Like before, it's like a closed gate and you know you can't go through it. But now, since you got a uniform, you know, I got the power to do things. I got the power to put people away. I got the power to kill and possibly get away with it. Most of the time get away with it. There is no punishment for them. For me, police officers are just a big gang, a legal one. They're a legal gang, they watch out for each other, and they legally can do things that regular gangs can't do, which is why they get away with a lot of stuff. Like I said, at this point, it's that gang mentality. It's that, you know, watch out for your homie, you know what I'm saying? Don't snitch, cover it up. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's more so watching out for your homie. You trust him with your life. And if y'all both power tripping, you're both gonna trust each other to clean up each other's messes.
This show is about solutions. Could one of the solutions be other officers saying,
It could.
that's enough,
It could.
to one of their own?
It really could. They could stop it. They could say, hey man, you go over there, bro, I'm gonna handle this. I'm in a calmer state, I can take this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that could save thousands of lives if they just did something like that. But you won't ever hear that.
Wilcox's lawsuit against the Daytona Beach Police Department is still moving forward. A judge denied a request from the defense to dismiss it. Wilcox has very strong feelings. On Solutionaries, we do our best not to operate in a vacuum. We look for input from our community and our audience. We assembled a panel to discuss some of the stories in this show. They had plenty to say, and they offered solutions. One of the highlights, the new chief of the Daytona Beach Police Department. He reacted to Wilcox's interview, and the two agree on something. So I'm just going to introduce our panel. We have Dr. Sidney Crudup, who is a pastor and program assistant with Orange County Public Schools. We have A.V. Tado, who is a local performer and News 6 viewer. And we have Chief Jakari Young, who is the chief of the Daytona Beach Police Department. Chief, what do you think about Joe Mardrick's possible solution to where we are with policing in America? Joe Mardrick said, why don't officers police each other?
I agree with that 150% because here's one thing that I've been saying for a long time. You know, whenever you see an incident occur, we focus back on the training, and we can train all day long, but there's a couple things. It doesn't matter how much we train. You cannot teach common sense, and you cannot teach empathy. You cannot teach common sense, and you cannot train someone to have empathy. So I agree with them 150%. When you see someone, an officer, getting a little bit aggressive, I expect my officers to step in, grab them by the back of the uniform, the gun belt, whatever the case may be, pull him back, step in, and do your best to de-escalate the situation. So I agree with them 150%. We should see it more. That's what I expect of my officers.
Chief, thank you. A.V., should officers police each other?
Yes, I definitely agree with that. They don't know them, and they're like, no, I know what I'm doing. But if their peer that has the same training as them, has the same experience as them, that they trust, is telling them, you need to back off, I think it would be a lot more effective.
I think it has to also be policing even at the academy level, where you have to check who, you know, I know that they have these psychological evaluations, those kinds of things, but I think there needs to be a little bit more policing in that area to see exactly who we're putting in this uniform and who we're putting a gun on.
Again, we need to point out that Chief Young was not the chief when Wilcox was arrested, and the officer involved was not allowed to talk because of pending litigation. There is a lot to discuss here, and we'd like to hear your opinions. Drop a comment below and make sure you hit subscribe to stay up to date with Solutionaries.